Hello, everybody. This is the introduction to the Wretched Psalter series. From yours truly, I come today with the light of Christ, albeit with a little bit of soot, if you can see that, and a cynic staff, and a collection of religious poetry for the good fool. So you're probably wondering, what is this fat white guy holding a candle and talking about a book for? Well, this is an introduction to a series I'd like to start. For those of you that don't know or didn't watch the last video, my name is Caleb WH, or Lawrence, or Caleb, or Valor21, or whatever you want to call me. I am not picky or fussy or anything of the sort. I am an author. Not only am I an author, I call myself a poet, philosopher, and failure for a reason. I recently published this book about 3 months ago. I started this book about a year ago, and dropped it. I was told by my counselor to start it, and maybe that would be therapeutic for me. I wrote 4, then dropped it, and then needless to say, something happened, and I picked it up again, and now it is complete. This is a work that I spent about 4 months writing nonstop. If you don't count the 4 Psalms that I wrote the year prior. These basically, if you want the full version, watch the last video I made, which is like the channel update, and just go through the Wretched Psalter section. With that, you're probably noticing that this is not the first video I've ever made about the Wretched Psalter. In fact, if I remember correctly, I have about 6 videos of me reading out of this book. I will be keeping those. This is what I'd like to call the Wretched Psalter series. I will be reading out of this book, in excerpts and in just a psalm that I think may be pertinent to the moment. Obviously, all of the videos are unedited. And this is a piece of religious poetry that I'm very happy about. So here's a bit of a crash course. This is 151 psalms in the style of a kind of psalter, but it is a psalter that is kind of structured a little bit differently. It's more like religious poetry and prose than it is actual psalms. There is 151 psalms here, and it's divided into 3 acts. The first act is philosophical and theological ideals. Ideas I just come up with, have no experiential bounding except for being grounded in the Orthodox tradition, with a few things I pull that I orthodoxify to tell the truth of Christ. The second act is Act 2, which is raw experientialism. It's anything I personally witnessed, saw, did, had a conversation about, etc. Anything that is experientially derived, you will find in Act 2. And Act 3 is direct worship of God. It's 11 psalms, starting with creation, then talking about Moses on Mount Sinai, then talking about Ezekiel, and then after that, it's all Christ. And the final psalm, Psalm 151, is an eschaton, the last judgment. And I come to you with this. I come to you with this work with a kind of longing and love for you, my fellow outcast. Also, anybody can read this. Anybody who needs the whatever olive oil or chrism that this instills in people. I consecrate this work to God, and thus I want it to help people. So with that, I think it's best if I read you guys an introduction, just the introduction, just to kind of introduce this work for what it is. So this is the introduction to the Wretched Psalter. With that, have a listen. Let's pull it out here. Introduction. Hello, pious reader. I would first of all like to thank you for having the charity to read this book. Whether you bought it, pirated it, were handed it to by a friend, or found it on a dead guy, the fact that you have chosen to lay eyes on this book and given it the time of day to read means the world to me. I would like to thank you personally for this. May Christ keep you. A few things before we get started. What you are about to read is a very philosophical and theological set of poetry and prose written in the style of a psalmist. I would like to forward you the utmost charity by telling you I am not a theological authority. I hold no church office. I hold, as of writing this, 0 degrees, though that may change, theology major. Everything you are about to read should be taken on its own merits. I would like to ask that you be very charitable with your reading of this, because I am not God, nor do I claim to be him. I am merely a wretched, cynical human being who is enraptured by his God. With that, I need to clarify one more thing before we talk about the actual poetry. I am currently, as of writing this, on my way to becoming an Eastern Orthodox Christian. This could change after publishing, I do not know. It didn't change. I would like to ask, as you read this, whether you are a fellow Eastern Orthodox Christian, Oriental Orthodox, Catholic, Protestant, Restorationist, atheist, or of a completely foreign religion, that you read this critically and with an open mind. I would also like to forward my utmost thankfulness to anyone reading this with a skeptical eye. The fact that you have even shed your vanity just once to read such a work means the world to me, but please keep an open mind. The last thing I will say on this subject is a lot of heterodox concepts are used to see if I can fit them into an Orthodox framework. I end up actually putting them into an Orthodox framework, by the way. I just need to make that very clear. With that, this is the Wretched Psalter, a collection of poetry and prose that ultimately has been woven together to explain my love for God and to convey philosophical and theological truths. It comes in 3 parts. Act 1 is an explanation of philosophical and theological realities and ideals, ultimately focusing on the things we should pursue or be wary of. The poems are wrought heavily with symbolic language and idealistic musings about the nature of reality. Act 2 is raw experientialism, though I personally have witnessed things I have witnessed, seen, or taken part in. This is for the vain experientialist who is skeptical of reasoning and philosophical thinking. These works still have a very symbolic language and deep meaning, but are also a little bit more down to earth, even darker, and perhaps a little bit more scandalous. Act 1 still has some of that too, but you get the picture. Act 3 contains 11 poems directly worshipping God. They are the most carefully crafted in the entire work and convey deep theological subjects and meaning. The poems usually start with a quote, and sometimes a note from the author. This is meant to illustrate the philosophical undertones the story will tackle. Some of these are also not to be used in any prayer, and I would hesitate to put any of these poems in this work in a prayerful setting. These are usually dark or try to illustrate very horrid and disgusting things about humanity. These poems do not shy away from dark themes, but they are also not used gratuitously. Any claims about people in hell or what hell and heaven look like are not to be taken epistemically. I am a wretch. I am no saint and certainly not a clairvoyant. Let me go put this up. It's getting hot in my hand. That did hurt, y'all. Okay. Here we go. I am not... here we go. My apologies. Any claims about people in hell or what hell and heaven look like are not to be taken epistemically. I am a wretch, no saint, and certainly not a clairvoyant. Especially for poems about the toll houses or purgatory. Please do not take these as me saying they epistemically exist. Lastly, about the structure. Some of these poems come in batches. They are delegated in what's called the story map. Any stories that come together to weave a full narrative are noted there. This needs to be doubly stressed. Please, please, please do not take me as something I say. Do not take me or something I say just because it is in a psalter, or trust me for theological guidance. Everything in this should be taken on its own merits, not because it's orthodox or a psalter. And if you plan on reading these in prayerful settings, I would ask you to run this by your priest or pastor if you can. You don't have to, but I would recommend it. Everything in this needs to be taken on its own merits. And if you are scandalized or if this causes you to be tempted somehow, please shut the book. I wouldn't want you to stumble into sin because of me. Ultimately, this is supposed to illustrate theological truth and ideals, both sacred and profane. If you are scandalized by anything in these works, I would like to apologize. Everything said in this work was said carefully and intentionally. I do not think anything in here is theologically or philosophically inaccurate. I would hate to be a stumbling block for you to sin, so feel free to close this book at any time and never think about it again. With that said, this is the Wretched Psalter. It will tell you stories of God and Satan, jesters and princesses, blind cynics, monsters and men, and everything in between. Please enjoy the Wretched Psalter from a wretched man. That is the introduction. I need to clarify a few more things before you start this playlist. Ideally, you guys have pulled up the entire playlist, and this is the first video that you guys are seeing. First of all, thank you guys so much for pulling up that playlist. Y'all are real for that. But just a few things before we get started, and things you may notice in the video. Sometimes I will be dressing up for the performance. even if it's something dumb, like in the Oedipus and the Gorgon video, I went full stop, cynic staff. I had I use a scarf as a blindfold, and read it like through like the bottom of read it through the bottom of the thing itself. I think you'll enjoy that. Sometimes I may use a prop, like, I don't know, a candle, like I just did, or a what else? I think in one of them I used a book that just says Lives of the Saints in front of it. It's a Catholic one, but it gets across the point. In one of them, I think I pulled one of my like Pokemon things that I had from childhood on my shelf that I love to death and will probably never be leaving until I die. Don't care about the Geist of Masculinity. Come and fight me over it. Anyway, this is the Wretched Psalter, and if you guys are watching this on this playlist, thank you guys so much. And with that, please feel free to continue reading any of this playlist. Reading this through a playlist, maybe, and also check this book on Amazon. If you like one of the poems and you want to pick this up, if you just heard me say the introduction and you want to, I will be providing the Amazon link in the description. I also will be putting my socials in the description so you, my friend, can read this for free. All of my works are in the public domain. I need to make that doubly stressed. Because I feel free to take these concepts that you hear in the Wretched Psalter and remix, remake, write a scenario that you like. Maybe you want to see. I know you Tumblr artists really like your fan cannons in the back of your head. Maybe you guys have a little bit of an artistic sensibility. Like, I need to see these characters doing this. Absolutely, have at it. If you have a character. Now, I have rules. I don't really call them rules because I'm like, listen, your sin is your own business. But like, your sin is your own business. But like, I would prefer no NSFW things about some of these concepts. I feel like that would be like undermining the point. Again, there's a reason that I write this. But I'm not gonna stop you. I'm just saying, like, preferably don't do it. I strongly prefer that you don't. And if you do, kind of keep it in private. Don't post it online. You don't have to follow this rule, but I will be looking. I won't be looking. Don't worry, I won't be looking. But if I stumble across it, we gonna have some problems. I'm kidding. I'm not trying to fight nobody, but you get the point. I would prefer you not do that. With that, this is the Wretched Psalter. Thank you guys so much for listening. And God bless you, and thank you guys for watching this video. And may the good fool find you where he found me. God bless.